I used to work the night shift as a receptionist at a small hospital in Ohio. It wasn't a huge hospital, just 3 floors, 1 emergency wing, and a handful of overnight staff trying to survive 12-hour shifts fueled by caffeine and exhaustion. Night shifts, they were usually quiet after midnight. The waiting room lights stayed dim, the vending machines hummed constantly, and every hallway smelled like disinfectant mixed with stale air conditioning. At around 2 a.m., things always felt off. The hospital became too quiet. One night in November, I was covering for another receptionist who called in sick. Around 1:40 a.m., one of the nurses named Kelly walked up to the front desk looking pale. "Did someone check into room 214?" she asked. I looked at the computer. "No, why?" She hesitated before answering. "Because the call button keeps going off." That wasn't unusual. Patients accidentally pressed them all the time, but Kelly looked genuinely uncomfortable. "I already checked twice," she said quietly. "The room's empty." I remember laughing nervously. Maybe the button's broken. That's what I thought too. She walked away, but something about the way she said it stayed with me. About 20 minutes later, the phone at the front desk rang. I picked it up. "Front desk, this is Ryan." Nothing, just static. Then I heard breathing, very slow breathing. "Hello?" A weak female voice whispered, "Please help me." The line disconnected. I checked the internal caller ID. Room 214. My stomach dropped. I immediately called Kelly on the radio. "Did someone get admitted to 214? "No," she answered instantly. I stared at the hallway leading toward the elevators. Even from the desk, that corridor always looked unnaturally dark at night. Kelly came downstairs a few minutes later with another nurse. The 3 of us rode the elevator to the 2nd floor together. Nobody spoke during the ride. When the elevator doors opened, the hallway lights flickered once, then stabilized. Room 214 was near the end of the hall. As we approached, I noticed the call light above the door, blinking red. Kelly muttered under her breath, "I swear this room's empty." She slowly pushed the door open. The room was dark except for the faint glow of medical equipment. Empty bed, empty bathroom, nobody there, but the call button beside the bed was swinging slightly back and forth like someone had just dropped it. The other nurse immediately stepped back. "Nope." Kelly walked over and picked it up. "See? Probably just loose." Then the bathroom door creaked open behind us. All 3 of us froze. The bathroom light was off, nobody inside, but I clearly heard movement, like bare feet shifting on tile. Kelly whispered, "Hello?" No answer. She slowly leaned toward the bathroom doorway, and suddenly the emergency alarm beside the bed started blaring. All of us jumped. The monitor beside the bed suddenly displayed a heartbeat, a steady pulse. Even though nothing was connected, the other nurse grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt. "Turn it off." Kelly pressed buttons frantically, but the heartbeat kept going. Beep, beep, beep. Then the bathroom light switched on by itself. I'll never forget what I saw. There was a woman standing inside. At least, I think it was a woman. She wore a hospital gown, soaking wet like she'd been submerged in water. Her hair hung over her face completely. None of us moved. The monitor beside us suddenly flatlined. The sound screamed through the room, and the figure slowly lifted one arm, pointing directly at Kelly. Then every light in the room shut off. Complete darkness. The nurse beside me started crying. A second later, the lights came back on. The bathroom was empty. No woman, no water, nothing. Kelly refused to speak the rest of the shift. The next morning, one of the older staff members overheard us talking about room 214. She went silent for a moment before saying something I wish I never heard. Years earlier, a patient had drowned in the hospital bathtub during recovery after surgery. Same room, room 214. And according to her, night staff had been reporting strange calls from that room ever since. 2 weeks later, Kelly quit without explanation. Before she left, she told me one thing. Every night after that incident, she kept dreaming about the wet woman standing beside her bed, pointing. During nursing school, I worked overnight security at a private hospital outside Chicago. Most nights were boring. I mainly watched security cameras, escorted visitors out after hours, and checked empty wings. The hospital had 6 floors, but the 5th floor had been closed for renovation for almost a year after a fire damaged part of it. Nobody was allowed up there, not patients, not staff. The elevators weren't even supposed to stop on 5 anymore. One stormy night around 3 a.m., I was sitting alone in the security office watching cameras when I noticed something strange. The elevator camera activated on its own. No one had called it. I watched the screen as the elevator slowly moved upward. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it stopped at 5. The doors opened. Darkness. The hallway lights upstairs were completely off. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then someone stepped inside. A nurse. At least that's what it looked like. White uniform, long dark hair, head lowered. But something felt wrong immediately. She wasn't moving naturally, more like twitching slightly. The elevator doors closed. Instead of selecting a floor, the figure just stood there motionless. Then the camera feed cut to static. I sat up straight. A second later, the elevator alarm went off. I grabbed my flashlight and radio before heading upstairs. Even while walking there, I kept trying to tell myself it was probably a camera malfunction, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. When I reached the elevator, the doors were open, empty, no one inside. The air smelled strange, like burned plastic. I checked the elevator panel. The number 5 button was glowing. I radioed another guard named Marcus. "You near the north elevators?" "No, why?" "I think someone's on 5. Silence. Then Marcus answered carefully. "You sure?" "Yeah." Another pause. "Nobody's supposed to go up there." "I know." Marcus finally agreed to meet me. 10 minutes later, we took the stairs to the 5th floor together. The door opened into complete darkness. Only our flashlights lit the hallway. The fire damage was worse than I expected. Parts of the ceiling were blackened and plastic sheets covered abandoned equipment. Everything was silent except for rain hitting the windows outside. Marcus whispered, "I hate this place." We started walking down the hallway slowly. Then we heard it. A metal cart squeaking somewhere ahead of us, slowly rolling. Marcus immediately stopped walking. "Did you hear that?" Before I could answer, we saw movement at the far end of the hall. Someone turned the corner, a nurse, same white uniform, head tilted downward, standing completely still. Marcus called out, "Hey!" No response. I pointed my flashlight directly at her face. I wish I hadn't. Her face looked burned, skin blackened and peeling, one eye completely white, and she was smiling. Marcus cursed under his breath. Then the woman suddenly sprinted toward us, not normal running, fast, violent. Her shoes slammed against the floor impossibly hard. We turned and ran instantly. I could hear the squeaking cart behind us moving fast too, like something was pushing it. We reached the stairwell and slammed the door shut. The banging started immediately on the other side. Marcus nearly fell trying to get downstairs. We didn't stop running until we reached the security office again. Neither of us spoke for several minutes. Finally, Marcus looked at me and said quietly, "That was her." "Who?" "The nurse who died in the fire." I thought he was joking. He wasn't. Apparently, during the fire years earlier, one nurse got trapped while trying to move patients to safety. Her body was found beside a medical cart near the north hallway, exactly where we saw her. The next morning, management reviewed the elevator logs. According to them, the elevator never stopped at floor 5 that night. But I know what I saw on that camera. And sometimes when I worked late after that, the elevator would randomly stop on 5 again, just for a few seconds, then continue down. My cousin Elena worked overnight as a respiratory therapist in a hospital in Texas. She told me this story herself during a family gathering, and even years later she still refuses to work night shifts because of it. According to her, the hospital had an old pediatric wing that barely got used anymore. Most child patients were transferred elsewhere, so that floor stayed mostly empty at night. Elena hated going there alone. She said the silence felt wrong. One night around 2:30 a.m., she got called upstairs to check oxygen equipment in one of the empty pediatric rooms. As soon as she stepped onto the floor, she noticed how cold it was. Way colder than the rest of the hospital. The lights overhead buzzed faintly. Most rooms were empty, doors partially open, old cartoon stickers still peeling from the walls. She finished checking one room and started heading back toward the elevators when the overhead intercom suddenly activated. Static crackled loudly. Then a little girl's voice said, "Can someone help me?" Elena froze. The voice sounded close, too close. A second later, the intercom shut off. Elena radioed downstairs. "Did anyone just use the intercom?" "No," the operator answered. "You sure?" "Yes." Elena started walking faster. Then the intercom turned on again. This time the voice sounded scared. "Please don't leave me alone." Elena stopped moving completely. She later told me the voice didn't sound pre-recorded. It sounded real, like an actual child speaking through tears. Then she heard something else. A bouncing ball slowly hitting the floor somewhere nearby. Boing, boing, boing. Elena followed the sound reluctantly down the hallway. At the very end was a playroom with the door cracked open. The ball sound stopped. She stood outside listening carefully. Silence. Then a child giggled inside. Elena pushed the door open. The room was empty, but a small red ball slowly rolled across the floor by itself, right toward her feet. She backed away immediately. Then the intercom above her clicked on one more time, but this time the voice was different, not a child anymore. A deep, distorted voice whispered, "Tend, she's still here." The lights in the hallway shut off instantly. Elena screamed. Emergency lights flickered dim red throughout the floor. Then she saw movement near the nurse's station. A little girl standing there, hospital gown, pale skin, dark wet hair hanging over her face. The child slowly pointed down the hallway behind Elena. Elena turned around and saw another figure standing there, tall, motionless, completely black silhouette, no face, just standing in the darkness watching her. Then it started walking toward her slowly. Elena ran. She didn't care about professionalism anymore. She sprinted straight for the elevator while hearing footsteps behind her the entire time. When the elevator doors finally opened downstairs, she collapsed crying in front of two nurses. At first, nobody believed her until they checked the pediatric floor cameras. For almost 3 minutes, the cameras had gone completely black, except for one frame, one single frame captured near the nurse's station. It showed Elena standing alone in the hallway, and behind her, a small girl-shaped figure. Hospital records later revealed that decades earlier, a young patient had died unexpectedly on that same floor during the night. After her death, staff reportedly heard children laughing over the intercom long after visiting hours ended. Elena quit 6 months later, but before leaving, she told me something terrifying. Sometimes during overnight shifts, the intercom still activated by itself, and a little girl's voice would quietly ask, "Can someone stay with me tonight?"